Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to a brand new video. For the entirety of my entire channel, I only did Can You Beat Blank with only a blank, and that format is fun, although I decided this time to switch it up a little bit. Today we find out if you could beat Pokemon Emerald with a completely randomized team each battle. Let me elaborate a little bit for this one. Basically, there is a ROM hack on the internet you could download, and it completely randomizes your team every single time you get into a battle. The only thing it keeps is the level and the nickname of the Mon if I decide to give it one. That way, you know, we don't have the first gym and we have a level 100 Rayquaza randomly. It's all balanced, and if you get to a certain level, it gives you certain Mons, so it's definitely not going to be overpowered. There is going to be a link in the description describing everything that this ROM does. Grinding is also going to be a huge issue for this ROM because we're not going to be able to get EXP consistently, and leveling up is just going to be a pain. And with that description out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the rules for this run. Rule number 1 is no using items in battle. Even though we do have random Mons, we're not going to use items for this one just to add an extra challenge. And rule number 2 is no hacking or cheating of any kind. And with the rules out of the way, guys, let's see if we can get lucky enough to beat this game. So like always, I choose a male character and name myself Tion because it's my freaking name. We then stumble upon Birch running away from a level 2 Zigzagoon, and we do have to choose our starter like always. It really doesn't matter what I choose because everything's going to be randomized anyway, but I end up picking a Mudkip. And once I send out my Mudkip, what? This doesn't look like a Mudkip. In all seriousness though, we did get a Nidoran with Peck, and we end up winning this battle relatively easy. Now remember guys, this is randomized every single time, so next time we send this thing out, it is not going to be a Nidoran. Back at Birch's lab, I accidentally say no to nicknaming him, so I just end up resetting because I want to give my buddy a nickname. That was unexpected. I am live streaming this of course, and I end up getting the nickname subtweet from chat because it's a bird, guys, but that was kind of stupid because obviously it's gonna transform into something else besides a bird. So next up is May, and since we did initially choose a Mudkip, she does have a Trico, but we get lucky and make subtweet into a Spearow. Obviously we use Peck because it is super effective, and we end up taking out Trico in only 2 hits. I then catch a Ralts and name it Boop. I was just looking for anything really because we do need some more team members. I then catch a Zigzagoon and name it HM Boy because I want to put this guy in the PC and only use him when we need to use HMs like Rock Smash and Surf. I then run into a patch of grass and have to fight a level 3 Lotad, and we end up getting a Groudon. I'm so sorry, Lotad. We then help Wally catch his very first Pokemon, and he ends up having an Akeda instead of a Zigzagoon. It's named Zigzagoon, but yeah, this ROM's very confusing. I then add a new team member to the team, and I catch a Wingull and name it Was Pico. I then have to fight this team Aqua in Petalburg Woods, and we did not get anything OP whatsoever, but his Poochyena kept spamming Sand Attack, and it got very annoying, but eventually I am able to take Poochyena out with a combination of tackle and tackle. No, but seriously, this was an extremely annoying battle, and I missed almost every single tackle that I tried previously once we got sand attacked. Next up is Roxanne, and we did get a couple of our Pokemon up to level 11, so I know if we get a good roll and decent Mons that we could actually win this battle. Both Geodudes went down super easy with only a few confusions each, and next up was Nosepass at level 15. This did take a very long time, but Nosepass did not have anything to actually hit us with that did a lot of damage, so we just end up spamming confusion, and she did end up healing it up a few times, and Nosepass also had a berry, so this took quite a while. Eventually though, we are able to spam confusion and win the battle. Surprisingly enough, this was actually my first attempt, and I'm super glad it went this well. Next, I have to save the real Pico in Rustfurrow Tunnel and give him back to Mr. Briny, so I end up fighting this team Aqua once again, easily taking out his Poochyena and only 2 body slams. Like always, Mr. Briny offers to take us to Dewford, and that is an offer that we are definitely going to take up. I then decided to head straight to Brawley, and this did not go well whatsoever. He destroyed us each and every time, and I just knew that it was a matter of luck because we didn't get anything really good against his Pokemon. Like I said at the beginning, grinding is super hard to do, so I just end up resetting over and over until eventually I get a decent team. Luckily, Boop turns into a Mr. Mime at level 14 with Confusion, and I know Confusion is obviously super effective against most of his Mons, so I just end up spamming that. Meditite's actually neutral to Confusion, but it ends up still doing a good amount of damage, and I do eventually take it out. Last up is a Makuhita at level 19. Now this is super effective obviously, and stab, so I end up going for Confusion, almost getting a one-hit KO as Makuhita ends up going for Bulk Up and eating his berry, but it is not enough to save him from more Confusion taking him out. Honestly, it seems like we just have to keep trying over and over again until we get decent Mons because grinding is super inconvenient for this ROM. Once we end up tracking down Steven in the Dewford Cave, we deliver a letter, and this gives us access to go to Slateport. After defeating 2 Team Aqua Grunts, Archie then comes up to us, and then he runs away like a baby because he is scared of the power I may or may not have. Next up is probably one of the most hated rival battles in this entire game. May leads off with a level 18 Wingull, and I do have Lunatone, who was going to go down to another water gun, so I end up switching to Subtweet, who is a Aerodactyl this time, which is awesome, and I'm able to take it down with only one wing attack. Next up is a Slugma at level 18, and we end up hitting it with a wing attack as it retaliates with a rock throw, and we take it out with one more wing attack. Next up is a Grovia at level 20, who also goes down to one super effective wing attack. Aerodactyl just ends up tanking 2 super effective hits and wiping out her entire team. I cannot be happier with that. After I destroy Wally, I go into Watson's gym, get absolutely destroyed, and realize I need to go fight all the trainers I can for levels. And after gaining a few levels and getting some luck, we actually have a decent chance of beating Watson this time. I notice I have a Glacia, so I go ahead and switch to that as I get hit with a Spark, and it barely does any damage as we get hit with a Shockwave, and we end up using Safeguard so we can't get paralyzed. This is going to be crucial later because once we get the Magneton, that's all it's going to try to do. I take down Voltorb with only one Dragon Breath, and next up is Electrike at level 20, and I end up going for Dragon Breath again, doing a huge amount of damage as it ends up going for Howl. He then hits us with a quick attack, but then we do return with another Dragon Breath to take him out. Next up is Magneton at level 22, and I end up going for Wish here just to recover some HP as he hits us with a Shockwave, barely doing any damage as I put my Safeguard back up, and he tries to use Thunder Wave, and essentially that just gives us a free turn to heal up with Wish. Now Dragon Breath almost does no damage to Magneton, so I end up speeding this up a lot here, but eventually we finally end up winning with a combination of Safeguard, Wish, and Dragon Breath. Magneton is always the issue for Watson, it seems like, with most people, even though Manectric is technically his strongest Pokemon. Last out is Manectric at level 24, and he ends up going for Howl, raising his attack and then hitting us with a quick attack as we hit him with 2 Dragon Breaths and we end up paralyzing him. Manectric then eats his Citrus Berry, restoring most of his HP back, but I have my own HP restoring move, so I'm fine with that. There was a move on Boop I really wanted to use in this battle relatively quickly, so I just end up switching out into Weezing and then using Self-Destruct, KOing Manectric and defeating Watson. That is a pretty funny way of winning a battle. Thank you for your sacrifice, Boop. Now in this ROM hack, apparently if you try to teach a HM to a Pokemon, it randomizes your team, so HM Boy is no longer an HM Boy, and was Pico already has Rock Smash, so yep, that's kinda weird. I then break this rock for Bobby Wasabi, and then he gives us the HM for strength. I then had to travel all the way to Meteor Falls just for this one cutscene so we could get to the top of Mount Chimney. Once I'm actually at the top of Mount Chimney, I have to fight Maxie. Maxie isn't too hard of an opponent, but we did end up getting a Rattata, and I end up going for Hyper Fang, and it almost does nothing to his Mightyena. Eventually, Mightyena ends up taking down Subtweet, and we have to switch into our last Pokemon was Pico. Now, he is a Solrock, and we do have double team, so of course we are going to abuse that. I actually have a pretty good moveset on Solrock, so I end up going for Rock Throw here, and it is Stab, so it ends up doing a good amount of damage as I'm able to take out Mightyena, and then I'm able to one-shot Zubat as well. Maxie's last Pokemon is a Camerupt at level 25, and I just end up spamming Rock Throw, and eventually I do get him down to only a sliver of HP, but of course Maxie heals him up with a Super Potion. Even though he did get healed up, I just continue to spam Rock Throw, and eventually I do get a critical hit, taking out Camerupt and defeating Maxie. We are really lacking on levels, and next up is Flannery, so I really hope I do get lucky and get some decent mons. Once I finally get the Flannery, I actually do get pretty lucky only after a couple of attempts, and I have a decent team this time. She leads off with a level 24 Numel as I end up leading off with a level 28 Vigoroth. I end up going for double team as she hits us with a Overheat, doing a good chunk of damage as I go for double team. Once again, we end up avoiding the magnitude. Once we have a couple double teams set up, I end up going for Uproar, doing a good amount of damage as it actually ends up hitting us with a critical magnitude, almost taking us out as we hit it with one more Uproar, and somehow it connects with another Overheat, taking us out. Next Subtweet is a level 25 Hunter, so I end up going for Psywave, but of course Flannery ends up healing up Numel with a Hyper Potion. I end up going for Psywave once again, but Numel hangs on with a little bit of HP as it sets up a Sunny Day, and we take it out with only one more Psywave. Now that Numel's out of the way, next up is a level 24 Slugma, and I end up going for a Psywave here, doing a little bit of damage, but unfortunately Slugma ends up going for Overheat, taking us out in only one hit. Unfortunately, Haunter does go down, but he wasn't the best Pokemon as we do have Boop here at level 24, who is a Lunatone, and we have a pretty good moveset, and we're able to almost one-shot Slugma with a Rock Throw. Right before Slugma goes down, it ends up setting up a Light Screen as we finish it off with a Rock Throw. Next up is a Camerupt at level 26. Now I am kind of confused on what to use here, so I just end up going for Hypnosis, and luckily it actually ends up hitting as Camerupt does fall asleep. Once Camerupt is put to sleep, I end up going for Rock Throw for a couple of turns until this Light Screen wears off so I could use Confusion. Once the Light Screen goes away, I am able to use Confusion, and Confusion does just a little bit more than Rock Throw as Camerupt wakes up and uses Sunny Day. I end up going for Confusion here, almost taking out Camerupt as it hits us with a Tackle, only doing 7 damage, but of course Flannery heals it up with a Hyper Potion, so we have to start this process all over again. Luckily, Camerupt actually does end up hitting itself this turn, and I really don't want to take any chances with a Overheat, so I end up putting it back to sleep, and then I finish it off with a couple more Confusions. Last out is her level 29 Torkoal, and I end up actually hitting my other Hypnosis, and I get a critical hit on my Confusion, doing a lot of damage. Unfortunately, Torkoal does wake wake up and I do hit it with another confusion, but we get paralyzed with a body slam. I do put Torkoal back to sleep and then I hit it with another confusion, almost taking it out, but then Torkoal wakes up, hit us with a critical body slam, doing a ton of damage, but we finish it off with one more confusion. And only after a couple of attempts we do end up beating Flannery without having something overpowered once again. Also, this happened while I was just walking around. We got a shiny Rosalia, which actually looks really dope shiny. I've never seen it before. Next up is our dad Norman. Now this battle took a ton of attempts, but I finally get a good Pokemon as it is. Boop, at level 26, he is a Groudon, which is definitely going to be helpful. I want to preserve Groudon's power for the stronger Pokemon, so I end up going to Pico and using Body Slam on Spinda, doing a ton of damage and eventually taking him out with only Body Slam. I do end up doing a good amount of damage to Slacking, but eventually I do get taken out with a counter and I finally get to use my Groudon. 2 Mudshots is enough to take out Slacking, and next up is Vigoroth at level 27, who ends up taking a lot more damage than Slacking did. Eventually I did spam Mudshot enough and I'm able to take out Vigoroth, and last up is Lanoon, who I end up only taking out in 1 Mudshot because he goes for Belly Drum, and we finally defeat Norman only after about 20 attempts. We also ended up winning underleveled, which is super nice because that means I did not have to grind up at all. Next up is Team Aqua at the Weather Institute, and I did end up beating every single trainer I could on the way up here, so I do have a few more levels than I did with Norman. Luckily, Pico turned into a Primeape with a fighting move, so I'm able to use Revenge and take out both of her Pokemon in only 1 hit. Once I took down Team Aqua admin Chili, next up is May. Oh yeah, we also get a cast form, and since this thing obviously is going to transform into something that's not a cast form, it's a good base level 25 Pokemon that we can use. But like I said, next up is May, and she leads off with a level 29 Slugma, and I lead off with a level 34 Charmeleon, and I end up taking down Slugma with a couple of strengths, and next up is Lombre. I end up going for Flamethrower on Lombre here, and even though it is raining, it still does enough damage to take it out. Next up is Grovyle at level 31, and then it goes down in only 2 Flamethrowers, and we defeat May just like that. Next up is the Flying Gym. Weana, of course, leads off with her level 29 Swablu, and I lead off with a Lombre, and it actually ends up doing decent damage, and I end up taking it out. Next up is Pelipper, so I switch into Boop and do some damage here, but unfortunately I end up killing myself in confusion. I did switch into Tropius, take out Pelipper, and then it goes down to a Solar Beam due to Tropius, so I switch out to Zapdos, take out Tropius, and then Skarmory, and last up is Altaria at level 33. LOL ends up going down after getting off an Aurora Beam, so I switch out to Subtweet, hit Altaria with a Fake Out, and then I go down to an Aerial Ace. I still have Zapdos at level 36, so I end up going for Thunder Shock here as Altaria sets up a Dragon Dance, and it does a decent amount of damage, and I think 1 more is enough to take it out, but it barely hangs on with a sliver of HP. Of course, Altaria ends up getting healed up with a Hyper Potion as I keep going for Thunder Shock here. Now this is getting really scary because Altaria will not stop setting up Dragon Dances. Once he has a ton of Dragon Dances set up, he ends up going for Aerial Ace. Now this is extremely scary as Aerial Ace is doing a lot of damage even though it is resisted, but I do barely end up winning with Thunder Shock. This battle actually took a ton of attempts because Altaria would just wipe out my entire team every time, but eventually I did get lucky enough to get a good team. On my way to the top of Mount Pyre, I end up catching a Wingull and then get subbed to remind you guys to subscribe because we only have 50% of people who watch me are subscribed, so if you would hit that subscribe button, it would mean the world to me. Once I'm at the top of Mount Pyre, Archie then gives us a speech and takes the wrong orb because he's just that big-brained, I guess. This is pretty funny. As Groudon runs away, I have to fight Maxie, and I end up getting Groudon on my side to actually fight Maxie, so yeah, that's pretty funny. Of course, with Groudon on our side, being a legendary and having some really good stats, I am able to beat Maxie relatively easy, even though we did not have the best of moves. Now, even though I did end up winning eventually, this battle did take a few attempts because I kept getting bad Pokemon, and I am severely underleveled. Next up is Team Aqua admin Matt in the Aqua hideout. I end up using Earthquake on my Deanna, doing a good amount of damage as we get hit with a Scary Face and then Swagger, but luckily we do not hit ourselves in confusion and take out my Deanna. And next up is Golbat at level 34, who goes down with 1 Thunder. I did fight every single trainer I could on the way to this battle, so I do have 2 Pokemon now at level 40 to give me a chance to beat Tate and Liza. Once I actually arrive at Tate and Liza, I am at level 42 and at level 47, and after multiple attempts, I do get some pretty good Pokemon. Now, Mantine is a pretty good Pokemon, but we honestly did just win this battle because we got good luck with Tri-Attack, freezing Zoctu, and then I use another Tri-Attack on Claydol, and it freezes him as well. Zoctu goes down with 1 critical Water Pulse, and Lunatone also goes down 1 critical Water Pulse as we attack Solrock as well, and eventually it is a 1v2 situation with a frozen Pokemon. I am speeding up this last part a lot here because Claydol does remain frozen for the entirety of this battle as he gets healed up anyway with a Hyper Potion, but we keep hammering it with a combination of Tri-Attack and Water Pulse, and we eventually get the W. Now that Tate and Liza is out of the way, next up is Team Aqua, and then we have to deal with the 8th gym leader, and then as onto the Elite Four, and I honestly have no idea how I've got this far. Funnily enough, in this double battle, Steven's Pokemon is actually randomized as well, and it is a Golbat named Matang, which is actually pretty cool, and randomizes literally everything on your side of the screen, it looks like. This battle is almost never worth mentioning, I just thought that this was pretty cool. Next up is Archie. Now, Archie actually is a pretty difficult battle, especially if you're not vastly over-leveled. Now, this Pokemon is not very good, and I can't even pronounce its name, but we do have a level 27 Latios, which we could definitely take advantage of. Earthquake does a ton of damage as we get hit with a scary face. As he gets healed up with a super potion, I just continue to use Earthquake and luckily do not hit myself and take out Mightyena. Next up is Crobat, and we have Psychic, so as long as I don't hit myself, we'll be fine, and luckily I do not hit myself and I'm able to one-shot Crobat. Last but not least is Sharpedo at level 43, and I did get hit with Swagger, so one Earthquake is enough to take it out. I'm surprised I did not get hit with Confusion any this turn, but I'm definitely not complaining. So long story short, Groudon and Kyogre end up fighting. I have to go get Rayquaza, and Rayquaza breaks them up like always, and next up is Juan. Juan actually did take a lot of attempts to do, and I did get pretty frustrated, but eventually I did get another pretty good team with Machamp, and I also got a Kyogre for this battle as well. I end up hitting Love Disc with Strength, doing a good amount of damage as I switch out into Subtweet, and I end up going for a Body Slam here, but unfortunately I hit myself in Confusion, but next turn I am able to take it out. Next up is Whiscash, and I end up going for a Hydro Pump here, actually doing a lot of damage, almost taking it out as I hit it with a Body Slam to finish it off. Next up is Celio at level 43, and I end up going for Hydro Pump, leaving it with only a sliver of HP as I hit it with one more Body Slam and Hydro Pump to take it out. Next up is Groudon, and I just end up using Body Slam until it goes down, which does take a few turns, but eventually it happens. Last out is Kingdra at level 46. Now, Kingdra actually did take a Hydro Pump relatively well as I just end up going for Body Slam once again, eventually getting the paralysis and taking it out with a few more Body Slams. Next up is Victory Road, and of course in Victory Road, the only person we have to really worry about is Wally. Now, funnily enough, I do end up leading off with Mew in this Wally fight, and the moves are actually pretty good. I end up taking out Altaria with a couple Agent Powers, and next up is Delcatty, who almost goes down with one Psychic. Although Delcatty does get healed up, I hit it with another Psychic, and it goes down. Next up is Magneton. I end up using Waterfall a couple times to take it out. Next up is Rosalia, which goes down to one Waterfall and one Psychic. Last but not least is Gardevoir at level 45, and I end up going for Waterfall here, doing a decent amount of damage, and then hitting it with another Agent Power and Waterfall once again, bringing it into the red as it gets healed up with a full restore. I end up hitting Gardevoir over and over again, but eventually I do end up going down to a Future Sight attack, so I switch into LOL to finish Gardevoir off with one Nightshade. Honestly, that was one of the few times I've ever seen Mew be useful in a battle, and I'm really happy that I ended up beating Wally that easily. Well, now that Wally's out of the way, next up is a little bit of grinding and then Elite Four time. First up is Elite Four member Sydney, who specializes in Dark-type Pokemon, who leads off with a level 47 Mightyena. Now, Waspico is in fact an Octillery this round, and is actually able to take out Mightyena and Cacturn. Of course, he does try his best to stay alive, but Octillery is actually too much for Cacturn, and I end up taking it out. And next up is Shiftry at level 48. I try to hit Shiftry with an Aurora Beam before I go down, but unfortunately I end up missing as Shiftry goes for Double Team. I have a Regice at level 37, and I end up going for Agent Power and then Icy Wind, doing a surprisingly amount of good damage. I end up getting confused and then getting hit with a Torment, so I can't use Icy Wind anymore, so I just end up finishing off Shiftry with a Superpower. Next up is Absol, and since I did use Superpower, I do want to switch to get rid of these debuffs, so I go into Boop, and unfortunately Boop just gets slashed to death, so I switch back into LOL, and he gets taken out as well, so I switch out into Subtweet, a level 54 Dragonite, which is definitely our ace. I end up using Earthquake, taking down Absol, and I use Earthquake on Crawdon, almost taking it out. As it sets up a Sword Stance, we are able to finish it off with one more Earthquake, defeating Sydney. This battle took about 20 attempts to do, and that's relatively low considering everything is random, and it's just making this game so much harder than it normally is. Next up is Elite Four member Phoebe, who uses Ghost-type Pokemon. Now, this battle took a ton of attempts to actually get good Mons, and finally I end up getting some pretty good Mons. I actually have some good moves against her. Houndoom takes out the first Dusclops, and then I switch into LOL, and unfortunately I get Earthquaked while I am underground, so I go down. Next I switch into Subtweet at level 54, and I actually have Psychic, which is a pretty good move, and ends up doing a decent amount of damage as I'm able to get a critical hit on the second one to take it out. Next out is a Banette, and I end up taking it out with Psychic, but unfortunately ended up using Grudge a couple of times, so I am now out of Psychic PP. I end up switching into Sub just to get a safe switch in so I could switch into my Houndoom to get a Bite off and hopefully take it out in only one hit. Fortunately, that's exactly what happens as I do use Bite and take out Banette in only one hit, and last but not least is Sableye at level 50. I end up going for Flamethrower on Sableye because it is stab and he has no weaknesses, so Bite would do less than Flamethrower would do, as it does a lot of damage, almost taking it out in one hit, as it survives with just a little bit of HP as it sets up a double team. Eventually this just turns into a whole cycle as I keep hitting it with Flamethrower, and then Sableye keeps healing up with a full restore, but eventually she runs out of full restores and I'm able to take it out. And now that Phoebe is finally out of the way, next up is Glacia. Glacia leads off with a level 50 Celio as I lead off with a Breloom, and I end up using Sky uppercut, taking down both her Celios and doing a massive amount of damage to Warren. Once Breloom gets taken down with a super effective Ice Beam, I switch into Hitmonlee and take it out with a Mega Kick, and then I also use a combination of Mega Kick and Earthquake to take out Glalie. Now I could have finished off the other Glalie here with a reversal, but I completely forgot what it did, so I ended up switching into LOL, then HM Boy, and after they get taken down with Ice Beam, chat tells me that reversal would easily take it out, and they were right, because reversal is absolutely destroyed. And finally I end up defeating Glacia. She was not as bad as Phoebe was, but this battle still did take a few attempts to beat. Next up is Elite Four member Drake, who uses Dragon type Pokemon. Now this battle did take a few attempts. It wasn't too bad, but it definitely was annoying. Even though we got some good Pokemon all the time, we still ended up losing to a Salamence. As soon as I take down Shogun, he switches into a Salamence, so I go into LOL to try to do some damage to him, but of course we get taken out with a critical Dragon Claw. I then switch back into Moltres, trying to do some damage to Salamence, but of course I get taken out by a 4-time super effective Rock Slide. My last Pokemon is a level 55 Alakazam. Now Alakazam actually is a pretty good Pokemon along with a decent moveset, so I end up setting up a Calm Mind, raising my special attack and special defense, and then I end up going for Psychic and actually takes down Salamence. Flygon's out next and gets one shot with a Psychic, and Altaria almost goes down to one Psychic, but Drake keeps sealing it up, and eventually I'm able to take it down, and then Kingdra's last, and I'm able to take it out with a Psychic after getting hit with a strong Body Slam. I was honestly super surprised I was able to sweep almost his entire team with Psychic after only setting up one Calm Mind, but hey, I'll take it any day. And with Drake out of the way, last up is the champion Wallace, who uses Water type Pokemon, and I know this battle is going to be absolutely awful at this level that we are at. Wallace leads off with a level 57 Wailord, who I end up putting to sleep with Sing. I then take a look at my team and see that I actually have a level 56 Groudon, which is definitely going to be crucial if I do end up winning this battle. I end up trying to do as much damage as I can, although the only good attacking move I have is Strength, and eventually I end up going down to a Water Spout as I send out Groudon and end up going for a Earthquake, doing a really good amount of damage, almost taking it out. I end up using Earthquake one more time to take out Wailord, and next out is Tentacruel, and it ends up going down to one Earthquake as well. Next out is Whiscash at level 56, and I end up going for Earthquake here, doing a huge amount of damage as it ends up setting up an Amnesia, and I am able to take it out with one more Earthquake. I end up switching to LOL just to see what Melodic was going to try to hit us with, and it is a Surf, and I really don't have any other Pokemon that could actually beat Melodic, so I'll switch back out into Subtweet and take it out with two more Earthquakes. Next out is Ludicolo at level 56, and I end up going for Fire Blast here, burning it and doing a good amount of damage as I finish it off with an Aerial Ace, and last but not least is Gyarados at level 56. I end up switching to Sub here to try to get anything off, and I actually end up getting a Leech Seed, which is super nice in the long run because I could switch into these Pokemon and get a little bit of HP from Gyarados each time, weakening him each turn. And checking on HM Boy's moves, it looks like he doesn't have any other moves that could actually hit Gyarados, so I just end up switching back into Subtweet, getting some HP from Leech Seed and also hitting him with a Fire Blast. Now he did have to recharge that turn because of Hyper Beam, so I switched back into HM Boy just to see what he was going to use, and it looks like he was going to go for Surf as I keep draining his HP little by little with Leech Seed. I end up going for Fire Blast here to finish it off, and I end up missing, which is super unfortunate as Gyarados ends up going for Dragon Dance here as Leech Seed brings it into full restore range, and at this point I was just super sad. I actually end up hitting Gyarados with the remainder of my Fire Blast, also getting Leech Seed damage each turn. I end up getting hit with a +1 Earthquake from Gyarados, and it actually did not do as much damage as I thought it was going to do at all. I end up using Aerial Ace here because I'm at a Fire Blast PP, and it is barely enough to take out Gyarados, and we finally end up defeating Wallace. This was an extremely hard battle to do, and it even made it more fun because I was streaming this live with you guys. But wait guys, this is not over yet. We still have one more person that we have to defeat, become the true champion of Hoenn. Before we go to the Steven battle though guys, if you haven't already, please hit that like button below because this video took literally forever to make, but I hope you guys did enjoy. Like I said, okay, enough talking. Let's get into the Steven fight. Now Steven's levels are ridiculous, and I really don't have any more trainers I could grind on in this game, so I end up going to the top of Sky Pillar and catching the level 70 Rayquaza. And now this is not going to be a Rayquaza, obviously it is going to be randomized. It's definitely going to be nice having a level 70 Mon though. Over the course of literally 200 runs, this is the run that actually went the way I wanted it to. I have a level 70 Kyogre who was able to one-shot Skarmory with a Hydro Pump. Next up is a level 76 Aggron, and I end up using Hydro Pump once again before he could actually get a Thunder off, so I end up taking him out with only one hit. I notice that he's going to send out Credilli next, and I know this thing has a Mega Drain, so I switch out into Subtweet and I hit it with a Fake Tears, lowering its special defense by 2 stages. Before we can hit it with a Fake Tears though, we do get hit with Ancient Power, doing a ton of damage to us, and next turn, unfortunately, he ends up connecting with the other Ancient Power, taking us out. I do have a Latios. Now Latios is at level 54, and I end up using Psychic on Credilli here, doing a good amount of damage since we did hit it with Fake Tears, as we get hit with a critical Agent Power, doing a lot of damage. I end up using Recover to heal some HP back as we get hit with Agent Power once again, but I just keep on using Recover until he either runs out of Agent Power PP or uses another move. This does take a while as as Agent Power could easily crit and take us out in one hit, but eventually we do end up getting a heal off as he uses Ingrain instead of Agent Power, so we hit him with another Psychic, almost taking him out and lowering his special defense by one more stage. He then goes for Confuse Ray, confusing us, which is super annoying. As long as we do not hit ourselves, we will be fine though, as Steven does heal up Cordelia with a full restore. I end up going for Psychic once again, doing a massive amount of damage. I know one more Psychic is enough to take Cordelia out, so I end up going for Psychic, and I do not hit myself in Confusion as I finally finish off Cordelia. Next out is Metagross, and I end up staying in and using a Psychic on Metagross, trying to do some damage here, but it does literally nothing as we get taken out with one Shadow Ball. I then switch into a Kyogre and use Hydro Pump, and surprisingly enough, it was able to one-shot, and next up is Claydol, and I use Hydro Pump on that as well to take it out. I did make it to Armaldo before several times with different kind of Kyogres, but this time I actually made it to Armaldo with an extra Hydro Pump to spare. I wasn't sure if this was going to even hit or take it out, but it turns out it actually was enough to take out Armaldo, and finally we end up beating Steven around 200 attempts. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up below as it helps up the channel, and if you disliked the video for some reason, leave a dislike and let me know how in the comments below I can improve for next time. And if you have not subscribed already, guys, please hit that subscribe button below if you want to see more content like this. We are super close to 20k subscribers, and I just never thought I'd be able to hit anything close to that. I hope you guys enjoyed, like I said, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys. Thanks for watching.